The small observation ship hovered silently above the city of Chicago. Inside, 3 blue-skinned aliens stared at the viewing screen with their large, oval eyes. They had been studying Earth for 20 years, and today was finally the day they would make contact with humans. "Are we certain about the research?" asked Zix, the youngest crew member. He nervously adjusted his uniform, which sparkled with tiny lights that showed his rank. Captain Vorn nodded, his head bobbing on his long, thin neck. "Our studies are very clear. Humans are peaceful plant eaters who communicate mainly through body movements. They are simple creatures with basic needs." The third alien, Science Officer Mela, pointed to the screen. "According to our data, their leaders are the small furry creatures they keep in their homes. The humans serve these masters and provide them with food and shelter." "You mean the cats?" asked Zix. "Yes, the supreme rulers of Earth. The humans bow to their every need," replied Mela. She checked her tablet. "Our mission is to make contact with both species, but we must be careful not to upset the natural order." The aliens had based their understanding of Earth on television signals they had collected over the years. Unfortunately, they had received most of their information from old sitcoms, cat food commercials, and nature shows about monkeys. This gave them a very wrong idea about humans. Captain Vorn pressed a button on the control panel. "We will land near a learning center. Our translation devices are ready. Remember the greeting dance we practiced." The ship lowered itself slowly toward Franklin West High School. Inside the school, Frank Miller was having a rough morning. His alarm hadn't gone off. He had spilled coffee on his favorite shirt, and now he was trying to teach history to 30 teenagers who would rather be anywhere else. "Can anyone tell me why the Treaty of Versailles was important?" Frank asked the class. No one raised a hand. Most students were looking at their phones under their desks. Frank sighed and took a big gulp of coffee from his mug that said, "World's most average teacher." He was 45 years old with thinning brown hair and a growing waistline. Teaching had been his passion once, but after 15 years, he sometimes wondered if he was making any difference at all. The treaty ended World War I, but it also set the stage for World War II because Frank stopped talking when he noticed a strange light coming through the classroom windows. The students looked up from their phones as the room filled with a soft blue glow. "Is this a drill?" asked one student. "I don't think so," said Frank, moving toward the window. Suddenly, the air in the middle of the classroom began to shimmer. Frank stepped back as 3 tall blue figures appeared out of nowhere. The students gasped and pushed their chairs away from the strange visitors. The aliens were about 7 feet tall with skin the color of the summer sky. They had no hair, large heads with huge eyes, and wore silver jumpsuits covered with blinking lights. They looked around the room, blinking rapidly. Then, without warning, all 3 began to dance. They spun in circles, waved their long arms, and bobbed their heads up and down. It looked like a mix between the chicken dance and bad disco moves. Frank dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, splashing hot coffee on his pants. "Damn it," he yelled, jumping back. The aliens stopped dancing immediately. They looked at each other with what seemed like alarm. One of them, wearing more lights on its uniform than the others, pulled out a small device and spoke into it in a series of clicks and whistles. "The human leader has made the danger sound," the alien said in perfect English, though its mouth didn't seem to move. "It has not responded to our peace dance and has broken a ceremonial vessel. This may be a declaration of hostility." Frank stared at them with his mouth open. The students were either frozen in fear or recording everything on their phones. Hello?" Frank finally managed to say. "I'm Frank Miller. I teach history." "Who are you?" The lead alien tilted its head. "It makes mouth noises. Interesting. Our research indicated they communicate primarily through movement." It turned to Frank and performed an elaborate bow. "We are representatives of the Zolarian Observation Council. We have come to meet with your leaders." "My leaders?" Frank asked, confused. "The small furry masters you serve," explained the alien. "We understand they are the true rulers of your world." A student in the back of the room started laughing. Another raised her hand and asked, "Are they talking about cats?" The lead alien nodded. Yes, the supreme beings you call cats. Please take us to them so we may begin diplomatic relations. Frank wasn't sure if this was an elaborate prank or if he was having a mental breakdown. Either way, he needed to get these beings, whatever they were, out of his classroom full of teenagers. I think there's been a mistake, he said slowly. Cats aren't our leaders. They're just pets. The aliens looked shocked. The smallest one consulted a device that looked like a transparent tablet. That contradicts all our research. Humans serve cats, provide them with food, clean their waste, and obey their commands. Just then, the fire alarm went off. Someone had pulled it in the hallway after hearing about the aliens. The loud noise made the aliens cover what might have been their ears. "Attack alarm!" shouted the lead alien. "Return to the ship." In the confusion that followed, students ran for the doors while Frank tried to maintain order. The aliens touched devices on their wrists and vanished in flashes of blue light. Outside the school, people were gathering to look at the strange ship hovering above the building. Police cars arrived with sirens blaring, and news vans weren't far behind. Across town, Lisa Wong was in her lab at the Chicago Center for Space Research when her phone rang. Lisa was 36 years old with short black hair and glasses. She had spent her career searching for signs of extraterrestrial life, and now it seemed that life had found Earth instead. "Dr. Wong, you need to get to Franklin West High School right now," said her boss on the phone. "First contact is happening and it's not going well." Lisa grabbed her bag and ran for the door. After years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, she was about to find out. But as she drove toward the school, she had no idea that she was heading straight into a cosmic misunderstanding that could put the entire planet in danger. The alien ship moved away from the school and hovered over a nearby park. Inside, Captain Vorn and his crew were confused and worried. "This doesn't match our research," said Science Officer Mella, looking through their data files. "The humans used sound to communicate, not movement. And they seemed surprised when we mentioned their cat overlords." "Could our information be wrong?" asked Zix, the youngest crew member. Captain Vorn shook his head. "Impossible. We've been studying Earth, broadcasts for decades. Let me see the main research sources again." Mella pulled up images on the large screen. "Here are our primary sources. A show called I Love Lucy from their year 1955, a nature program about primates from 1982, and several thousand cat food commercials from the 1990s. Don't forget the dancing instruction programs," added Zix, pointing to videos of humans doing the electric slide and the Macarena. "Our research is solid," insisted Captain Vorn. "The humans must be trying to trick us. Perhaps they don't want us to meet their true leaders." At that moment, their sensors detected movement below. A woman was standing alone in the park, looking up at their ship. "A human approaches," said Mella. "It appears to be alone." "Excellent," said Captain Vorn. "We'll try again with just one human. Ready the translation devices and prepare to beam down." Lisa Wong stood in the empty park, heart pounding. After getting the call about aliens, she had driven toward the high school but saw the alien ship moving to this location. She had followed it, parked her car, and now stood in the middle of an open field waiting. "I've spent my whole career looking for proof of alien life," she whispered to herself. "I can't believe they're actually here." Lisa had brought nothing with her except her phone and her NASA ID badge. She didn't know if the aliens would recognize the space agency's logo, but it was worth a try. A beam of blue light suddenly shot down from the ship, and 3 tall, blue aliens appeared in front of her. Lisa's mouth fell open, but she managed to stay calm. The aliens looked exactly like the descriptions from the high school students' videos that were already going viral online. "Hello," she said clearly, holding up her hands to show she had no weapons. "My name is Dr. Lisa Wong. I'm a scientist. I come in peace." The aliens looked at each other. Then the one with the most decorations on its uniform stepped forward and suddenly began doing what looked like an elaborate dance routine. Lisa stared in confusion as the alien spun around, waved its arms, and bobbed its head. After about 30 seconds of this, the alien stopped and seemed to be waiting for something. I'm sorry, Lisa said. I don't understand what you're trying to communicate. The alien tilted its head. You do not respond with the traditional greeting dance? Are you not a standard human? Lisa blinked in surprise. You speak English? We have translation devices, explained the alien. I am Captain Vorn of the Zolarian Observation Council. These are my crew members, Science Officer Mela and Junior Observer Zix. It's an honor to meet you, said Lisa, trying to stay professional despite her amazement. I'm a researcher with NASA. That's our space exploration organization. Captain Vorn nodded. We know of your primitive space efforts. We've been observing Earth for many years. We've come to establish official relations with your planet's rulers. You mean our governments? Asked Lisa. No, said Captain Vorn patiently, as if speaking to a child. We mean your true masters, the small furry ones you serve, the cats. Lisa couldn't help it, she laughed. The alien stepped back, looking concerned. I'm sorry, she said quickly. But there's been a misunderstanding. Cats aren't our rulers. They're animals we keep as pets, companions. But our research clearly shows humans serving cats, insisted Science Officer Mela. You provide them with food, shelter, and clean their waste. You speak to them with respect and follow their commands. Lisa thought about her neighbor's cat, a grumpy orange tabby that seemed to think it owned the world. Well, cats do act like they're in charge sometimes, but they're not actually our leaders. Humans are the dominant species on Earth, the aliens whispered among themselves. Junior Observer Zix pulled out a device and showed something to Captain Vorn, who nodded gravely. If what you say is true, said Captain Vorn, then much of our research is flawed. This is most concerning. We must consult with our ship's database. Before Lisa could respond, all three aliens vanished in flashes of blue light. She stood alone in the park, wondering if she'd ever see them again. She didn't have to wait long. 5 minutes later, the aliens reappeared, looking troubled. We have reviewed our data, announced Captain Vorn. It seems we may have made some errors in our understanding of Earth culture. I'd be happy to help correct any misunderstandings, offered Lisa. Our main research came from your broadcast signals, explained Science Officer Mela. But we now realize that what humans call television and movies are not always accurate representations of real life. Lisa nodded. That's right. They're entertainment, stories we make up. This is most distressing, said Captain Vorn. Our entire mission was based on this research. We must gather new, accurate information before proceeding with formal contact. Then Lisa's phone rang. It was her boss. Lisa, where are you? The president is on her way to Chicago right now. The whole world is watching these alien sightings. We need you at the command center immediately. I'm actually with the aliens right now, Lisa said calmly. In Jefferson Park. There was a long pause. You're with them? Yes. They're called Zolarians. There's been a misunderstanding. They thought cats were Earth's rulers. Another long pause. Cats? Like meow cats? Yes. They've been watching our TV shows and got the wrong idea about humans. I'm helping clear things up. Don't move, her boss said urgently. The president's team is rerouting to your location. Keep them talking. Lisa put her phone away and turned back to the aliens, who were watching her with interest. Was that communication with your leaders? Asked Captain Vorn. Sort of, Lisa replied. Our actual leader, the President of the United States, is coming here to meet you. She's very interested in establishing peaceful relations between our worlds. The president is female? Asked Junior Observer Zix, looking surprised. Yes, said Lisa. Is that a problem? Not at all, said Captain Vorn. But our research indicated that Earth was ruled by males in suits who speak loudly and point fingers at each other. Lisa sighed. You've been watching political talk shows, haven't you? In the distance, the sound of helicopters grew louder. The first official meeting between humanity and aliens was about to begin, and Lisa just hoped the Zolarians wouldn't try to teach the President of the United States how to do the Macarena. The park was no longer empty. Police cars formed a circle around the area where Lisa stood with the three aliens. News helicopters hovered overhead, and reporters crowded behind hastily placed barriers. Everyone wanted to see the first official meeting between humans and aliens. Captain Vorn looked uncomfortable with the growing crowd. There are many humans gathering. Is this normal behavior? Yes, Lisa explained. This is a historic moment for us. People are excited to see you. Are they planning to attack? Asked Junior Observer Zix nervously. No, they're just curious, Lisa assured them. Humans have wondered if we're alone in the universe for centuries. Now we know we're not. 3 black SUVs pulled up and people in dark suits jumped out. They formed a protective line as a tall woman with silver hair stepped out of the middle vehicle. That's President Eleanor Russell, Lisa whispered to the aliens. She's the leader of our country, the United States. The aliens watched in fascination as the president approached. She wore a dark blue suit and walked with confidence. The crowd fell silent. Welcome to Earth, President Russell said when she reached them. I'm Eleanor Russell, President of the United States of America. Captain Vorn stepped forward. He looked at the president, then at Lisa, then back at the president. He seemed confused. You are truly the leader? He asked. Not the small furry creatures? President Russell raised an eyebrow and glanced at Lisa. They thought cats ruled our planet, Lisa explained quickly. There's been a misunderstanding about our society. The president nodded slowly. I see. Well, Captain, I assure you that I am the elected leader of this nation and I'm working with other human leaders around the world. Cats are just our pets. This is most confusing, said Science Officer Mella. Our research indicated otherwise. I'd be happy to explain our actual system of government, offered the president. But perhaps we should move somewhere more private for discussions. Captain Vorn agreed, and soon they were all seated in a large conference room at a nearby government building. The aliens sat on one side of the table while the president, Lisa, several advisors, and Frank Miller sat on the other side. Frank had been brought in because he was the first human contact. He still looked shocked by everything that was happening. I'm just a history teacher, he whispered to Lisa. I'm not qualified for first contact with aliens. None of us are, Lisa whispered back. We're making this up as we go. President Russell began the meeting by explaining Earth's countries, governments, and international relations. The aliens listened carefully, taking notes on their devices. When she finished, Captain Vorn said, This is very different from our understanding. We believed humans were simple creatures who served cats and communicated through dance movements. What gave you that idea? Asked Frank. Science Officer Mela touched her device, and images appeared floating in the air above the table. They showed clips from old TV shows, nature documentaries about monkeys, and dozens of cat food commercials where humans served food to demanding cats. These were our primary research materials, explained Mela. One of the president's advisors started laughing but quickly turned it into a cough. Those are entertainment programs, explained the president patiently. They don't accurately represent our society. We're beginning to understand that, said Captain Vorn. This is quite embarrassing for us. The Zolarian Observation Council prides itself on thorough research before first contact. Everyone makes mistakes, said Lisa kindly. The important thing is that we're talking now. Captain Vorn nodded gratefully at her. Indeed, since our understanding was flawed, we should start fresh. We have brought gifts that we believed would please Earth's leaders. Junior Observer Zix pressed a button on his wrist device. 3 large containers appeared on the floor of the conference room. Zix opened the first one to reveal a huge pile of grass and leaves. Fresh vegetation for your diet, he announced proudly. Frank and Lisa exchanged glances. We're actually omnivores, said Frank. We eat plants and meat. The aliens looked horrified. You consume other animals? Asked Captain Vorn. Yes, said President Russell. That's part of our biology. Science Officer. Mela looked pale. The cat food commercials make more sense now. We thought those were just strange rituals. Zix opened the second container, which was filled with simple picture books with big letters and basic words. Learning materials for your species, He explained. We understood that humans have limited reading abilities. President Russell smiled diplomatically. We actually have advanced literature, science textbooks, and digital information systems. I see, said Captain Vorn, looking increasingly uncomfortable. And the third gift? The third container held what looked like small silver discs. These are atmospheric enhancers, explained Captain Vorn. They would have made Earth's air more suitable for your cat masters by adding more napping gases. Napping gases? Asked Lisa. Compounds that encourage rest and relaxation, explained Science Officer Mella. Cats sleep 16 hours per day, so we assumed they needed help maintaining the correct atmosphere. I think we should probably not use those, said Lisa quickly. President Russell nodded in agreement. While we appreciate the thought behind your gifts, perhaps it would be better if we first helped you understand our actual needs in society. A wise suggestion, agreed Captain Vorn. We clearly have much to learn. Just then, a young aide rushed into the room and whispered something to the president. Her face grew serious. I've just been informed that your ship has released something into our atmosphere, she said to the aliens. Can you explain what's happening? The aliens looked at each other nervously. That would be phase 1 of our assistance program, said Captain Vorn slowly. Before we arrived for direct contact, we activated the atmospheric enhancers around your planet. They should be releasing the napping gases now. Without asking permission? The president asked, her voice stern. We thought we were helping, said Junior Observer Zix, looking down at the table. We believed the cats would appreciate it. How much of this gas is being released? Asked Lisa, growing concerned. Enough to cover your entire planet, said Science Officer Mella. The process has already begun and cannot be easily stopped. Frank put his head in his hands. So, aliens are drugging our atmosphere because they think cats rule the world. This is not how I expected my Tuesday to go. Outside the building, people were beginning to act strangely. News reporters who had been broadcasting live were yawning on camera. Police officers were sitting down on the pavement. Even the president's security team was blinking sleepily. We need to stop this immediately, said President Russell, fighting back a yawn herself. Whatever you've released is affecting everyone. Not everyone, corrected Science Officer Mella, pointing at a screen showing street cameras. Look, on the screens, while humans were slowing down and looking drowsy, animals were acting differently. A dog was walking on its hind legs down a sidewalk. A squirrel appeared to be building something with acorns and bottle caps. And cats everywhere were sitting up straighter, watching everything with new focus in their eyes. Fascinating, whispered Lisa, struggling to keep her eyes open. What exactly is in those napping gases? It appears our information was not entirely incorrect, said Captain Vorn, looking at the screens. Perhaps the cats are more than they seem. The situation was growing worse by the hour. Across the world, humans were becoming increasingly sleepy while animals were showing signs of unusual intelligence. In the conference room, President Russell and her team fought to stay awake. You must reverse this immediately, the president told Captain Vorn, her words slightly slurred from the effects of the gas. We're trying to understand what's happening, replied Captain Vorn. The napping gas was only supposed to affect cats positively. We didn't know it would make humans sleepy or change other animals. Lisa struggled to keep her eyes open. Something in the gas must be affecting brain chemistry differently across species. Frank, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. I have an idea. My neighbor is a veterinarian, Alan Parsons. He might be able to help us understand what's happening to the animals. President Russell nodded slowly. Get him here. While they waited for Alan to arrive, the aliens monitored the situation through their advanced technology. The news wasn't good. The effects are spreading faster than expected, reported Science Officer Mella. Humans worldwide are entering sleep states while animals are showing increased cognitive abilities. This is not what we intended, said Captain Vorn, looking genuinely worried. We came to establish peaceful contact, not cause a planetary crisis. Junior Observer Zix was watching a monitor showing a park nearby. Look at those cats, he said, pointing to the screen. On the monitor, a group of cats had gathered in a circle. They appeared to be communicating with each other in some way, sitting very still and staring intensely. "Are they having a meeting?" asked Frank, struggling to focus. Before anyone could answer, the door opened and a tall man with curly brown hair walked in, escorted by two drowsy security agents. He carried a medical bag and looked around the room with wide eyes when he saw the aliens. "Holy, they really are blue," he said. This was Alan Parsons, the veterinarian. "Dr. Parsons," said President Russell, trying to sound official, despite her fatigue. "Thank you for coming. We need your expertise on animal behavior." Alan tore his eyes away from the aliens. "I was at my clinic when it started. All the animals began acting strangely. Dogs solving puzzles meant for primates, cats working together to open doors. Something very weird is happening." "It's the napping gas," explained Lisa. "The Zolarians released it thinking it would help cats who they believed were Earth's rulers." Alan blinked several times. "They thought cats ruled Earth? Based on cat food commercials," Frank explained with a tired smile. "Well, cats probably think they rule the world, but they don't," said Alan. "At least they didn't until today." He opened his bag and pulled out a tablet. "I've been recording the changes. Look at this." He showed them a video of a cat carefully arranging small objects to form what looked like a simple circuit. Another video showed dogs working together to build a small shelter. "Their problem-solving abilities have increased dramatically," Alan explained, "and they're starting to work in groups, which is unusual for many species." Science Officer Mella leaned forward with interest. "The gas must be enhancing certain neural pathways. This is unexpected but fascinating." "Fascinating but dangerous," corrected President Russell. "If this continues, what happens when all humans are asleep and animals are, whatever they're becoming?" Captain Vorn looked serious. "We must find a way to reverse the process. Our chemical experts on the ship might be able to create a counter-agent. But we need to understand why this is happening first," said Lisa. "Something about your research on Earth must have been fundamentally wrong for your predictions to be this far off." Junior observer Zix had been quietly working on his device. "I may have found something," he said. "When we first began collecting Earth's broadcast signals, we primarily received transmissions from a single location, a small town called Millfield in what you call Wisconsin." "Millfield?" Alan looked surprised. "That's where Gerald Wexler lives." "Who is Gerald Wexler?" asked Captain Vorn. "A billionaire who made his fortune in tech," explained Alan. "He retired to Millfield about 20 years ago. There were always rumors he was doing strange experiments, but no one knew what." Frank snapped his fingers, then immediately looked embarrassed by the loud noise. "I remember reading about him. Didn't he build some kind of massive broadcast station on his property?" Lisa nodded slowly, fighting the drowsiness. "Yes, he claimed he was trying to communicate with aliens by sending modified versions of human culture into space." The aliens stared at her. "Modified how?" asked Science Officer Mella. "No one really knew," said Lisa. "It was considered a rich man's weird hobby. But if your observations of Earth came primarily from his broadcasts, that would explain the discrepancies in our research," said Captain Vorn. "We believed we were seeing true representations of Earth culture." Alan was checking his phone. "According to social media, which is going crazy right now, even Wexler's pets are showing the same enhanced intelligence. His estate is apparently surrounded by organized groups of animals." President Russell, fighting hard against the effects of the gas, stood up. "We need to get to Millfield. If Wexler created this problem, maybe he can help solve it." "I agree," said Captain Vorn. "Our ship can take us there quickly." "One moment," said Science Officer Mella, looking at a new alert on her device. "We're receiving a transmission from our home world. The Galactic Council is concerned about our reports and is sending a support vessel." "What kind of support vessel?" asked Lisa. Mella looked uncomfortable. "The kind that can implement a full planetary reset if necessary." "Reset?" Frank asked, suddenly more awake. "What does that mean?" "It means they might decide your planet is too problematic and revert it to a pre-intelligent species state. explained Junior Observer Zix quietly. The room fell silent. How long do we have? Asked President Russell. The support vessel will arrive in approximately 12 Earth hours, said Captain Vorn. We must resolve this situation before then. Then let's get to Millfield, said Lisa, standing up despite her fatigue. We need to find out what Wexler did and fix this mess. As they prepared to leave, Alan was looking at his tablet again. You should see this, he said, his voice serious. He showed them new footage from cities around the world. Cats were gathering, in large groups. Dogs were building structures. Birds were forming patterns in the sky that looked almost like written language. They're organizing, said Alan. Whatever this gas is doing, it's not just making them smarter, it's making them work together. But for what purpose? Asked Frank. On the screen, a large tiger from a zoo walked directly up to a camera. It stared straight into the lens, its eyes showing an intelligence that had never been there before. The animal's mouth moved in what looked almost like an attempt to speak. I think, said Alan slowly, we're about to find out. The alien ship moved quickly through the sky toward Millfield, Wisconsin. Inside, President Russell, Lisa, Frank, and Alan sat with the three Zolarians. Everyone except the aliens struggled to stay awake. We're nearly there, said Captain Vorn, looking at the ship's controls. We have 10 hours remaining before the support vessel arrives. And if we can't solve this problem by then? Asked President Russell, her voice tired but determined. Then the Galactic Council might decide your planet is too dangerous to leave. As it is, replied Captain Vorn honestly. But there must be something we can do to convince them otherwise, insisted Lisa. The most convincing argument would be to fix the situation, said Science Officer Mella. If we can reverse the effects of the napping gas and explain the misunderstanding, they may be more lenient. The ship lowered itself toward a large estate surrounded by green fields. In the center stood a mansion with several round buildings behind it that looked like satellite dishes. That must be Wexler's broadcast station, said Frank, pointing to the dishes. As they got closer, they could see something unusual. Hundreds of animals had gathered around the property. Cats sat in neat rows. Dogs stood in organized groups. Birds perched on the roof in patterns. They're guarding it, whispered Alan. The animals are protecting Wexler's estate. How will we get past them? Asked Lisa. Junior Observer Zix studied the readings on a small device. The animals seemed to be responding to signals coming from inside the main building. If we can block those signals, we might be able to confuse them long enough to enter. Captain Vorn nodded and pressed some buttons on the ship's control panel. I've activated a signal jammer. It should work temporarily. The ship landed on the front lawn of the estate. Through the windows, they could see the animals beginning to move around in confusion, their organization breaking down. Now's our chance, said President Russell. Let's go. They hurried from the ship to the mansion's front door. Frank tried the handle, but it was locked. Alan looked around nervously. The signal jammer won't last long. The animals are already starting to regroup. Captain, Vorn stepped forward. He pointed a small device at the door and it clicked open. Zolarian technology has its uses, he said with a slight smile. They rushed inside and found themselves in a grand entrance hall. Expensive paintings hung on the walls, and a large chandelier sparkled overhead. Hello? Called President Russell. Gerald Wexler? This is the President of the United States. We need to speak with you urgently. There was no answer, but they heard sounds coming from deeper in the house. They followed the noise until they reached a large room filled with screens, computers, and strange equipment. In the center, a small man with wild white hair and thick glasses was working frantically at a control panel. Mr. Wexler, said Lisa. The man looked up, startled. Who are you? How did you get past my guards? Your guards? Frank asked. You mean the animals? Wexler smiled proudly. Yes, my wonderful creatures. I've been experimenting with enhancing animal intelligence for years, but nothing worked until today. Suddenly, they all became exactly what I knew they could be. That would be because of us, said Captain Vorn, stepping forward. Wexler's eyes widened when he saw the aliens. We're Zolarians, explained Captain Vorn. We came to Earth believing cats were your planet's rulers, based largely on broadcast signals we received from your facility. My signals reached someone. Wexler clapped his hands in delight. I knew it would work. What exactly were you broadcasting? Asked Lisa. Modified versions of our culture, Wexler explained excitedly. I took TV shows, commercials, nature programs, and edited them to make Earth seem more interesting. I wanted aliens to come visit us. Well, we're here, said Science Officer Mella dryly. And based on your misleading broadcasts, we released a gas into your atmosphere that is making humans, sleepy and animals intelligent. That's wonderful, exclaimed Wexler. It's exactly what I've been trying to achieve for years. No, it's not wonderful, said President Russell firmly. The Galactic Council is sending a ship that might reset our entire planet if we don't fix this situation. Billions of people could die. That finally seemed to get through to Wexler. His smile faded. Oh, that's not good. We need to reverse the effects of the gas, said Alan. Can you help us? Wexler thought for a moment. Maybe. I've been studying the changes in the animals since it started. The gas seems to be altering neural pathways, enhancing certain brain functions while suppressing others. In humans, it's suppressing wakefulness. In animals, it's enhancing cognitive abilities. Our scientists could create a counteragent, said Captain Vorn. But we need to understand exactly how the gas is working first. Lisa had been looking at Wexler's equipment. Wait a minute, are you still broadcasting modified signals? Of course, said Wexler. I never stopped. That's it, exclaimed Frank suddenly. That's why the Galactic Council is sending a support vessel. They're still receiving Wexler's fake versions of Earth culture and think the situation is even worse than it is. We need to send a true broadcast, said Lisa. Show them what Earth is really like. And we need to create a worldwide demonstration of human intelligence and civilization, added President Russell, fighting to stay awake. Show them we're the dominant sapient species here. I have an idea, said Alan, looking at his tablet. People all over the world are posting videos of the strange animal behavior. What if we use those same networks to organize a global human response? Something that demonstrates our intelligence, technology, and peaceful intentions? That could work, agreed Captain Vorn. If we can show the Galactic Council that humans are worth preserving, they might give us time to fix the napping gas problem. And I might be able to help with that too, said Wexler, now looking serious. My research on animal intelligence might help your scientists create a counteragent faster. For the next 9 hours, they worked non-stop. Wexler and the Zolarian scientists developed a formula to reverse the effects of the napping gas. Lisa and Alan used social media to organize a global demonstration of human culture, technology, and peaceful intentions. Frank helped President Russell prepare a message for the Galactic Council. As the support vessel approached Earth, billions of humans fought through their drowsiness to participate in the demonstration. Scientists showed their discoveries. Artists shared their creations. Children waved at the sky. Even the sleepiest among them worked together to show what humanity truly was. From space, the Galactic Council watched in surprise as the true nature of Earth's civilization was revealed to them for the first time. They are not what we thought they were, said the council leader to Captain Vorn via transmission. We have been misled. It was an honest mistake, replied Captain Vorn, and we are working to fix the problems we caused. The council agreed to give them more time. The counteragent was released into the atmosphere, and slowly humans began to wake up while animals returned to their normal behaviors, though some, like Wexler's pets, retained a bit more intelligence than before. As the crisis ended, Lisa, Frank, and Alan stood with the Zolarians in the White House garden. President Russell was inside, addressing the world about what had happened. I'm sorry for all the trouble we caused, said Captain Vorn. Our research methods will be completely revised after this experience. We all make mistakes, said Lisa, with a smile. The important thing is learning from them. We certainly have, agreed Science Officer Mella, and we've learned that Earth is far more interesting than we initially believed. Will you come back to visit? Asked Frank. Perhaps, said Captain Vorn. But next time we'll announce ourselves properly. No more relying on cat food commercials for cultural research. They all laughed as the sun set on the strangest day in Earth's history, the day when aliens arrived with all the wrong ideas and humans and animals alike showed them the truth.